The hospital hallway was quiet in a way that felt heavy. Not peaceful, just heavy. Machines beeped behind closed doors. Soft footsteps echoed off white walls that smelled of cleaning liquid and fear. Inside a private room, a baby lay still in a glass crib. Tubes ran from the tiny body to machines that flashed numbers most people did not understand. The baby's chest rose and fell, slow and uneven, like it was tired of trying. A woman sat beside the crib. She did not look powerful right now. Her expensive clothes hung loosely on her. Her hair was tied back without care. Her eyes were red, dry, and empty. She had cried too much already. She was known everywhere as a billionaire. But in this room, she was only a mother watching her baby slip away. Outside the room, doctors stood together. 18 of them, specialists, experts, people flown in from different cities. Some checked watches. Some avoided eye contact. One quietly shook his head. They had tried everything they knew. One doctor finally spoke, his voice low and careful. "We've reached the limit." Another added, "There's nothing more we can do tonight." The words hit the woman like cold water. She pressed her hand against the glass crib. Her fingers shook. Money had solved every problem in her life, until now. A nurse gently suggested she rest. The woman did not move. She stared at her baby's face, memorizing every detail, as if afraid this moment might be the last. Down the hallway, a man pushed a cleaning cart slowly, quietly. He wore faded clothes and worn shoes. His back was slightly bent from years of hard work. He kept his eyes low, not wanting to disturb anyone. He was a poor black single dad. Most people never noticed him. Doctors walked past him. Visitors looked through him. He was used to that. But tonight, he noticed everything. He noticed how the doctor's shoulders were slumped. He noticed how their voices sounded finished, not busy. He noticed how the nurse wiped her eyes when she thought no one was watching. He stopped pushing the cart. From where he stood, he could see the mother through the glass. He saw how she leaned forward, resting her forehead against the crib. He saw her lips move, whispering something only she and the baby could hear. The man felt a tight pull in his chest. He had stood in a hospital like this once before. Different building, same smell, same sounds, same fear. He remembered sitting alone, holding his own child's hand, listening to words that sounded like the end. He remembered being told to prepare himself, to accept what could not be changed, and he remembered how wrong they had been. A doctor stepped out of the room and spoke quietly to another. "We should start preparing the paperwork." The man looked up sharply. Paperwork. That word meant giving up. He told himself to keep moving. This was not his place. He was just a cleaner. Just a worker trying to get through another night shift. He pushed the cart forward. Then the baby cried. It was faint, weak, almost missed, but the man heard it. He froze. The cry wasn't loud, but it wasn't empty either. It wasn't the sound of something done fighting. It sounded like something trying barely, but still trying. The doctors did not react. They were too focused on charts and screens. The man's heart started beating faster. He moved closer to the room, pretending to clean the floor near the door. Through the glass, he watched the baby's chest again, the rise, the fall. Something felt familiar. He studied the machines. Not the numbers, he didn't understand those, but the rhythm, the timing, the pauses. His hands tightened around the handle of the cart. The memory came back clear now. A long night. A doctor saying the same things. A child breathing in a way that scared everyone except him. He had seen this before. The woman lifted her head slightly. Her eyes met his for a second through the glass. She did not look angry or proud. She looked broken, empty, like someone who had run out of strength. The man quickly looked away. He had no right to be there. But his feet wouldn't move. One doctor opened the door and stepped into the hallway. "We're going to give her some time alone," he said to the nurse. "After that, we'll talk." The nurse nodded. The man swallowed hard. Time alone. He knew what came after that. His thoughts raced. If he spoke up, he could lose his job. He could be thrown out. He could be blamed if something went wrong. And who would listen to him anyway? He was nobody here. The door to the room remained open for a moment. The baby's cry came again, weaker this time. The man took one step forward. Then another. His voice stayed stuck in his throat. He remembered his own child's face. The way he had refused to walk away. The way someone had finally listened, not because he was important, but because he would not stop caring. The door started to close. Before he could think, the man reached out and gently tapped on the frame. Everyone froze. The nurse turned first, surprised. Then the doctor looked at him, annoyed. "Yes?" the doctor asked sharply. The man's mouth was dry. His heart felt like it was pounding in his ears. I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I don't mean to interrupt," the doctor frowned. "This area is restricted." "I know," the man said. "I'll leave, I heard the baby." The doctor sighed, clearly tired. "We're handling it," the man nodded. He should have stopped there. But he didn't. "I've seen breathing like that before," he said, barely above a whisper. The hallway went silent. The doctor stared at him, surprised. "Excuse me?" The woman inside the room slowly turned her head. The man's hands shook, but he didn't back away. "I'm not a doctor," he said quickly. "I know that. I think something's being missed." The doctor's face hardened. "Sir, now is not the time." The woman stood up suddenly. Her voice was hoarse. "Let him finish." Everyone looked at her. The man swallowed. This was the moment. He could turn away now, or step into something that could change everything. And for the first time that night, hope, small and fragile, stood in the room. The hallway felt smaller after the woman spoke. "Let him finish." The doctor looked at her, then back at the man. His eyes showed doubt, not anger, just tired disbelief. He had been awake too long. They all had. The man stood still, unsure if his legs would hold him. He kept his hands low, open, showing he meant no harm. "I'm sorry," he said again. "I don't want to cause trouble." The woman stepped closer to the glass crib. She didn't look away from her baby. "You won't," she said softly. "Please, say what you were going to say." The man took a slow breath. "I've worked here a long time," he began. "I clean floors, fix small things. I see a lot. Most of it doesn't stay with me." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But some things do." The doctors exchanged looks. One of them crossed his arms. The man glanced at the baby. "That breathing pattern," he said. "It reminds me of my own child." The room changed at that moment. Not loudly, just enough. The woman turned fully toward him now. "Your child?" she asked. "Yes," he said, "years ago. Different hospital, same sounds, same machines." The doctor cleared his throat. "Sir, we understand you're emotional, but I'm not asking you to stop," the man said gently. "I just want you to listen." The doctor hesitated. The woman raised her hand slightly. "Please," she said. The man swallowed and continued. "They told me my child wouldn't make it through the night," he said. "They said the body was too tired, that the systems were failing." His voice stayed calm, but his eyes did not. "I watched my child breathe the same way. Long pause, short breath. Long pause again. Everyone thought it meant the end." He shook his head slowly, but it didn't. The doctor stayed quiet now. "What did you do?" the woman asked. "I didn't do much," he said honestly. "I just stayed. I noticed when things changed. When breathing got worse after certain movements. When it got better after others." The doctor frowned. "Are you suggesting we missed something?" The man met his eyes. "I'm saying sometimes patterns matter as much as numbers." The doctor exhaled sharply. "We've been monitoring patterns for hours." "I know," the man said. "But not the ones I'm talking about." Silence followed. The woman felt her chest tighten. She had heard medical words all day, big words, smart words. None of them had saved her baby. This man was speaking plain sense. "What did you notice?" she asked. The man stepped closer to the glass, careful not to cross any line. He pointed not at the machines, but at the baby's tiny chest. When the baby turns slightly, the breathing slows too much, he said. When the body is more upright, even just a little, it changes. The doctor shook his head. We adjust positioning constantly. Yes, the man said. But not the way I'm talking about. He hesitated again. I know this sounds strange, he said. But when my child was like this, everyone kept laying them back flat. That made things worse. The nurse looked at the baby, then at the monitors. The woman's hands tightened. And what helped? She asked. The man's voice dropped. Support, stillness, letting the body fight without forcing it. The doctor laughed once, tired and sharp. That's not treatment. I know, the man said quietly. But sometimes treatment isn't the same as healing. The words hung in the air. The doctor opened his mouth to respond but stopped. He looked again at the screen, then at the baby, then at the breathing pattern. The woman saw the hesitation. You said your child survived, she said. Yes, the man replied. Not because I was smart, but because I didn't leave. The room felt heavy again, but different now. What are you asking us to do? The doctor asked. The man shook his head. I'm not asking, I'm sharing. You decide. The woman closed her eyes for a moment. 18 doctors, 18 experts. All of them had reached the same end. This man had nothing to gain. She opened her eyes and looked straight at the lead doctor. If there's even a small chance, she said, I want to understand it. The doctor studied her face. He saw fear, but also something else. Hope. We can review positioning again, he said slowly. But I'm not promising anything. The man nodded. That's all I hoped for. As the doctors moved closer to the crib, the man stepped back. He did not want credit. He did not want attention. He just watched. The baby let out another faint cry. This time, more than one person noticed. And for the first time that night, no one said the word impossible. The room filled with quiet movement. Doctors adjusted their positions around the crib, speaking in low voices. No one rushed, no one argued. They worked slowly, as if afraid that one wrong move could break something already fragile. The man stayed near the wall, out of the way. He kept his eyes on the baby, not the people in white coats. He had said what he needed to say. Now whatever happened was out of his hands. The woman stood beside the crib. Her fingers hovered over the glass, unsure whether she was allowed to touch. She watched every breath, every pause. A doctor leaned toward the monitor. There's a slight change, he said, almost unwilling to admit it. Another doctor shook his head. It could be coincidence. Maybe, the first replied. But it's there. The woman's heart skipped. What kind of change? Small, the doctor said. But real. The baby's breathing slowed, then steadied. The pauses shortened. The chest rose a little more evenly. No one smiled. It was too soon. The lead doctor straightened. We are not calling this progress, he said firmly. We are observing. The woman nodded quickly. Of course. The man felt his hands grow warm. He clasped them together, trying to stay calm. He had seen this before, the moment where hope showed up quietly, afraid of being chased away. A younger doctor glanced toward him. Sir, she said cautiously, can you explain what you noticed before? In more detail. The room went still again. The lead doctor frowned. We've heard enough. The woman spoke before the man could. No, she said. Let him speak. The younger doctor nodded, encouraged. The man took a slow breath. I noticed the breathing changed when the baby was flat, he said. The pauses got longer. When the body was raised just a little, it eased. The lead doctor crossed his arms. We adjust position all the time. Yes, the man said. But sometimes it's about how long you leave it. Not just moving, but letting the body settle. The doctor's jaw tightened. This is not standard practice. I know, the man said. Neither was waiting with my child when everyone told me to stop. The words landed harder than he expected. The woman closed her eyes for a second. What are the risks? She asked the doctor. The doctor exhaled. If we change positioning too much, it could stress the baby. And if we don't? She asked. Silence. The doctor looked away. The woman's voice broke. You said there was nothing else to do. The lead doctor met her eyes. Yes, then doing nothing is also a risk, she said quietly. The room held its breath. The man did not speak. He knew this was no longer his decision. The doctor looked back at the monitor. He stared at the numbers longer this time. The baby's oxygen level flickered slightly higher than before. Prepare support cushions, he said finally. The nurse moved quickly. The woman pressed her hand to her mouth, tears slipping free. The man stepped back further, as if afraid he might be blamed just for standing there. The doctors adjusted the baby carefully. They lifted gently, supporting the tiny body with soft padding. Every movement was slow, measured. Then they waited. Minutes passed. No alarm sounded. The baby's breathing steadied again. Not perfect, but better. The younger doctor whispered, "It's holding." The lead doctor did not answer right away. Finally he spoke. "We continue observation. No changes for now." The woman let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She turned to the man. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely audible. He shook his head quickly. "I didn't do anything." "You did," she replied. "You stayed." Hours passed. The night grew deeper. The hallway lights dimmed. The man remained nearby, though he had work to finish. He asked permission before staying. No one told him to leave. The doctors took turns watching the monitors. They spoke less now. They watched more. At one point, the baby shifted slightly. The machine beeped faster for a moment. The woman's heart raced. Then the numbers settled again. The lead doctor finally spoke, quieter than before. "This is unexpected." The man felt a strange mix of relief and fear. He knew this was still fragile. He knew hope could disappear just as quietly as it arrived. A nurse checked the baby again. "Vitals are stable," she said. Stable. The word felt unreal. The woman leaned closer to the glass crib. "I'm here," she whispered to her baby. The man felt his throat tighten. He turned away for a moment. The lead doctor cleared his throat. "We are not out of danger," he said. "This could change." "I understand," the woman replied. She looked at the man again. "Will you stay?" she asked. He hesitated. "If it's allowed," the doctor nodded slowly. "For now," the man nodded once. As the night continued, the hospital room held something it had not held before. Not certainty, not answers, but possibility. And sometimes, that was enough to keep going. Morning light began to creep through the narrow window, pale and unsure, like it didn't belong there yet. The night had been long, too long. The baby was still alive. That simple truth felt heavy in the room. Doctors moved carefully now, not rushed, not confident either. Every sound from the machines made the woman tense. Every pause made her breath catch. The man sat quietly in a chair near the wall. He hadn't slept. He hadn't even closed his eyes. He kept his hands folded, still, like if he moved too much he might disturb whatever fragile balance was holding the baby together. The lead doctor rubbed his face. "We need to talk," he said. The woman stiffened. "About what?" "About the next step," the doctor replied. "What happened overnight doesn't change the reality. The baby is still very weak." "I know," she said quickly. "But you said the vitals are stable." "For now," the doctor answered. "Stability doesn't mean recovery." The woman nodded, but her eyes never left the crib. "What are the options?" The doctor hesitated. "We can continue monitoring and supportive care. Or we can move forward with aggressive intervention." The man looked up slowly. The doctor continued. "Aggressive intervention carries serious risks." "We've already discussed them." The woman swallowed. She remembered those conversations. The words, the charts, the warnings that sounded like quiet goodbyes. "And if we don't?" she asked. There's a chance the baby could weaken again, the doctor said. The improvement may not last. The woman closed her eyes. The man stood up carefully. May I say something? He asked. The doctor looked tired. You've already said a lot. The woman turned. Let him speak, the doctor sighed, but nodded. The man stepped forward, stopping at a respectful distance. I'm not telling anyone what to do, he said. I just want to share what I learned the hard way. He paused. The room waited. When my child was in trouble, he continued, everyone wanted to act fast. Bigger moves, stronger steps. But every time they pushed too hard, things got worse. The doctor frowned. You're suggesting we do less? I'm suggesting we listen, the man replied calmly. Not to fear, to the body. The woman felt tears rise again. You're saying, wait. I'm saying give the baby space to fight, he said. Not alone, just not forced. The doctor crossed his arms. Medicine doesn't work on feelings. No, the man said. But healing doesn't always follow plans. The words sat between them. The doctor looked at the monitors again. The baby's breathing remained steady, weak but steady. We don't have proof this will continue, the doctor said. We don't have proof it won't, the woman replied. Silence filled the room again. Finally, the doctor spoke. If we delay intervention and the baby declines, I'll accept that, the woman said quickly. I already accept that every choice carries pain, her voice broke. But I can't ignore what happened tonight, she turned to the man. You stayed when you didn't have to. He shook his head. I stayed because someone once stayed for me. The doctor exhaled slowly. All right, he said. We continue supportive care. No escalation unless there is clear decline. The woman's knees nearly gave out. She held the crib for support. The man stepped back again, relief and fear mixing in his chest. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. The doctors checked often, but less urgently now. The baby stirred once, letting out a tiny sound, not a cry, but not silence either. The woman smiled through tears. The man watched quietly. He thought about his own life, about how close he came to losing everything once, about how invisible people could carry moments like this without anyone knowing. A nurse approached him. You should rest, she said kindly. I'm okay, he replied. She smiled softly. You've been here all night. So has she, he said, nodding toward the woman. The nurse followed his gaze and nodded. Yes. Late in the afternoon, the lead doctor returned with updated readings. He studied them carefully. There's no decline, he said slowly. That's unexpected. The woman pressed her hands together. So we wait, he replied. The man let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The doctor looked at him then, not with doubt, not with dismissal, but with something close to respect. We don't teach this in school, the doctor said quietly. The man nodded. Some things can't be taught. The baby's chest rose and fell again, steady, small, alive. The room felt lighter, though no one dared say the word safe. Not yet. But the worst part, the moment when everyone had already given up, was over. And sometimes survival began exactly there. The waiting was harder than the fear. Fear had a shape. Fear came with words and warnings and plans. Waiting came with silence. The hospital room settled into a strange rhythm. Machines hummed. Lights stayed dim. Time felt thick, like it moved slower inside those walls. The woman sat beside the crib, her chair pulled close. She had not left the room, not to eat, not to rest. Every time she stood, she felt like she might fall. The man stayed nearby, quiet and careful. He did not sit too close. He did not speak unless spoken to. He watched the baby the way someone watches a flame in the window where that one wrong breath could make it disappear. Doctors checked in regularly. Each time they entered, the woman's heart jumped. Still stable, they said again and again. Stable did not mean safe. The man noticed small things. The way the baby's fingers curled sometimes. The way the breathing sounded less strained after long periods of stillness. He said nothing. He knew better now than to push. At one point, the woman turned to him. Her voice was low. "Why did you stay?" He thought for a moment. "Because someone once stayed for me," he said. She nodded. She didn't ask more. Hours passed. Night came again. The lead doctor returned with a different look in his eyes. Less tension. More caution. "There's been no decline," he said. "That matters." The woman pressed her hand to her mouth. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She did not wipe them away. "Does that mean?" She began. "It means the body is holding," the doctor replied. "We're not out of danger." "But this isn't what we expected." The man felt his chest tighten. He had learned not to celebrate early. He had learned hope was fragile. A nurse adjusted a blanket. The baby stirred, then settled again. The woman whispered, "I'm here." Sometime after midnight, the machines changed their rhythm. Just slightly. A sound the woman didn't recognize. Her head snapped up. "What is that?" The nurse checked quickly. The doctor was called. The room filled again with tension. The man stood slowly, his hands clenched. The baby's breathing became uneven again. Not like before, but not steady either. The doctor spoke calmly. "We're seeing stress." The woman's heart dropped. "Is it happening again?" "Possibly," the doctor said. "We need to watch closely." The room held its breath. Minutes passed. The sound continued. Then slowly it eased. The doctor stared at the monitor. "It's correcting," he said, surprised. The man closed his eyes for a second. The woman let out a broken laugh that turned into a sob. She covered her face. "I can't do this again," she whispered. The man moved closer, stopping at a respectful distance. "You're doing it," he said gently. "You already are." She looked up at him, eyes red. "You don't even know us." He shook his head. "I know this moment." She nodded. The doctor straightened. "I need to be honest," he said. "What we're seeing doesn't follow the path we expected." The woman's voice trembled. "Is that bad?" "It's different," he replied. "And different doesn't always mean wrong," the night continued. Near dawn, the baby opened its eyes for the first time since the crisis began. Just for a moment. Just a small movement. The woman saw it. She gasped. "Did you see that?" she whispered. The nurse nodded. "Yes," the doctor nodded too. The man felt something break open inside his chest. He turned away, giving them space. When the sun rose again, light filled the room fully this time. It felt like a new place. The doctor returned with fresh readings. He studied them carefully. "There's improvement," he said slowly. "Not enough to declare recovery, but enough to say this is no longer the same situation." The woman collapsed into her chair, shaking with relief. The man sat down for the first time. The doctor looked at him. "We still don't know why this is happening," the man nodded. "Sometimes the body just needs time." The doctor gave a small smile. "Sometimes." A nurse approached the woman. "You should eat something." She shook her head. "Not yet," the nurse smiled kindly. "The baby isn't going anywhere right now." Those words felt unreal. The woman reached out and touched the glass crib gently. "You stayed," she whispered to the baby. She turned to the man. "You stayed too." He nodded. "Yes." Outside the room, the hospital moved on. People walked, phones rang, life continued. Inside, something had shifted. Not a miracle, not a promise, but something just as powerful. Time. The doctors stopped using the word critical. They didn't replace it with safe, not yet. But the silence that once filled the room with fear slowly changed into something lighter, careful, steady, watchful. The baby continued to breathe on its own. Not strong, not easy, but real. The woman finally allowed herself to sleep for an hour. She stayed in the chair beside the crib, her hand resting against the glass. When she woke, the first thing she did was look for movement. The rise and fall of the tiny chest was still there. She pressed her lips together and let out a quiet cry of relief. The man had stepped outside during that time. He stood by a window at the end of the hallway, watching the city wake up. Cars moved, people hurried. Somewhere, normal life continued. It felt strange that the world hadn't stopped. The lead doctor joined him. He stood beside the man without speaking for a long moment. "You didn't interfere," the doctor said finally. "You didn't push." The man nodded. "I knew my place." "No," the doctor replied. "You knew your moment." The man looked at him, surprised. "We're trained to act," the doctor continued, "to fix, to move fast. Sometimes we forget how to watch." The man said nothing. Later that morning, the doctors gathered again. Not 18 this time, just a few. Their faces were calmer. "There's consistent improvement," the lead doctor told the woman. "It's slow, but it's real." She covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face freely now. "So, my baby," she whispered. "We believe your baby is going to live," the doctor said. The words didn't sound loud. They didn't sound dramatic. They sounded solid. The woman broke down completely. She leaned against the crib, shaking, crying in a way that came from somewhere deep and painful. The nurse held her gently. The man stood quietly near the door, his eyes fixed on the floor. After a while, the woman walked toward him. She stopped in front of him. "I don't even know your name," she said. He shook his head. "That's okay." "No," she said firmly. "It's not." She took a breath. "You saved my baby." He looked up quickly. "No, I didn't." "You did," she insisted. He shook his head again. "I didn't cure anything. I didn't fix anything. I just noticed. I stayed." She wiped her face. "That's more than anyone else did when everyone had already given up." The doctor stood nearby, listening. The lead doctor spoke. "What saved the baby wasn't one action," he said. "It was time, observation, patience." He paused. "And someone willing to speak when it was uncomfortable." The woman looked at the man. "You could have walked away." "Yes," he said. "I thought about it." "Why didn't you?" she asked. He hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because once someone didn't walk away from me." She nodded slowly. Later that day, hospital administration came by. Quiet words were exchanged. The man worried for a moment that he had broken a rule. Instead, the supervisor thanked him. No cameras, no announcements, no reward, just respect. Before his shift ended, the woman stopped him one last time. "I can never repay you," she said. He smiled gently. "You don't have to." She held out her hand. He shook it. "When my baby grows up," she said, "I'll tell them about the night someone who had nothing refused to leave." The man nodded, his throat tight. He returned to his routine the next evening. Same cart, same halls, same quiet work. Most people still didn't notice him. But that was okay. Because somewhere in a private room, a baby slept peacefully alive, not because of wealth, or titles, or how many experts stood in the room, but because one ordinary man chose not to disappear. And sometimes that choice changes everything.